Welcome to Clinical GAN. Today we will be discussing about adverse events in clinical trials in detail. When a chemical substance like drug or an external device is introduced into the body shows different responses. These responses could be beneficial or harmful to various extents. Researchers try to find out the common reactions throughout the clinical trials for a particular drug or a device. In today's video, we will know about definition of adverse event, abbreviated as AE, documentation and recording of adverse event, types of adverse events, A severity and grading, A relationship to study drug, A outcomes, and reporting of adverse events. Definition. According to ICH-GCP, an adverse event is any untoward medical occurrence in a patient or clinical investigation subject administered a pharmaceutical product and which does not necessarily have a causal relationship with this treatment. An adverse event can therefore be any unfavorable and unintended sign, including abnormal laboratory finding, any kind of symptom, disease temporarily associated with the use of an investigational product. Adverse event documentation. Collection of adverse event information begins at the initiation of study after the patient is screened or enrolled into the study. All adverse events must be documented in the patient's medical record or source documents. Adverse events should be followed to resolution or stabilization. Follow-up is required for adverse events that cause interruption or discontinuation of the study drug. Adverse event recording. Recording of adverse events on a case report form is dependent on the protocol. The protocol should clearly outline what type of adverse events will be recorded. For some protocols such as phase 1 studies, all adverse events will be recorded, or for others, maybe only grade 2 to 5 events will be recorded. Although the CRFs vary, some of the common elements will always be recorded. These are date the adverse event began, description of the adverse event, treatment for the adverse event, severity or grading of the adverse event, attribution of the adverse event, outcome of the adverse event, and date the adverse event result. Let's see the different types of adverse events. The adverse events are classified as serious or non-serious, expected or unexpected, and study-related or non-study related adverse events. Serious adverse events. An serious adverse event is defined as any adverse event occurring at the dose that results in any of the following outcomes. These could be death, life-threatening adverse experience, inpatient hospitalization or prolongation of existing hospitalization, a persistent or significant disability or incapacity, or a congenital anomaly or birth defect. Non-serious adverse events. Non-serious adverse events are merely documented in annual summary report to be sent to the regulatory authority. Expectedness. The expectedness of an adverse event is also critical. However, the assessment of expectedness is usually not collected onto the case report form or SAE form because the responsibility of the expectedness evaluation is not on the investigator's side but on the sponsor's side. Expected adverse events. These adverse events are known and their occurrence is expected as documented in various trial-related documents, like the investigator's brochure. In simple terms, adverse events, whether serious or not, is already listed in the investigator brochure and the package insert. Unexpected adverse event. The adverse events for which the occurrence and severity is not consistent as documented in various trial-related documents, such as investigator's brochure for an unapproved investigational product and package insert or summary of product for an approved product. In simple terms, the adverse event, whether serious or not, is not listed in the investigator brochure. Study relatedness. The adverse event is considered to be related to study only if the subject should have at least signed the informed consent to get involved in the clinical trial or clinical investigation. Either drug or device has been used on the subject, or the subject has undergone active eligibility screening as per the protocol. Non-study related. Any medical occurrence during the lag time between the signed informed consent and the start of the treatment is considered as non-study related adverse event. The National Cancer Institute's common terminology criteria for adverse events, known as CTCAE, latest version should be used to assess the grade adverse event severity, including laboratory abnormalities judged to be clinically significant. Severity grading includes mild, moderate, severe, and life-threatening. Mild. Transient discomfort, no limitation in activity, no medical intervention or therapy is required. The subject may be aware of the sign or symptom but tolerates it reasonably well. Moderate. Mild to moderate limitation in activity, no or minimal medical intervention or therapy is required. Severe. Marked limitation in activity, medical intervention or therapy is required. Hospitalizations possible. Life-threatening. The subject is at risk of death due to adverse event experience. Adverse event relationship to study drug. An adverse event may or may not be always causally related to the study intervention. Usually, a causal relationship means that the intervention caused or likely to have caused the adverse event. For example, the adverse event occurred shortly after the participant received the intervention. For all adverse events, it is the responsibility of the investigator who examines the patients to determine the relatedness of the event to the study intervention. The relationship of an adverse event to the study drug should be assessed using the following guideline: definitely, probably, possibly, or unrelated. Definitely, previously known toxicity that follows an expected response pattern to the suspected drug, which can be confirmed by stopping or reducing the dosage of the drug. Probably, an event that follows a known or expected response pattern to the suspected drug, and it is also confirmed by stopping or reducing the dosage of the drug, unlikely to be explained by the known characteristics of the subject's clinical state or by other interventions. Possibly, an event that follows a known or expected response pattern to that suspected drug, but that could readily have been produced by several other factors. Unrelated. An event that can be determined with certainty to have no relationship to the study drug. A outcome. The possible outcomes for AV are recovered or resolved, recovering or resolving, not recovered, not resolved, recovered or resolved with a sequel. Sequel means that the signs symptoms of the reported adverse event have not completely resolved and a new baseline for the subject or patient is established since full recovery is not expected. Other outcomes are fatal or unknown. Reporting of adverse event. In clinical trials, reporting of adverse events is critical to ensure the safety of participants. When an adverse event is reported, it is also assessed for the severity, seriousness, causality, and outcome. All of these are the standard fields that are supposed to be collected on the case report form or serious adverse event form. There are two types of reporting: routine or periodic reporting, where events are reported at an interim analysis or annual reviews. For example, sponsor will inform FDA in a summary fashion of all the A's in annual report or PSU or periodic safety update report required for all the INDs. Expedited reporting, where events require immediate reporting. For example, serious adverse event and unexpected serious adverse reaction must be reported to the regulatory agency and IRBs in expedited way. FDA requirements for reporting. For IND studies, FDA guidelines require expedited reporting by the sponsor of all adverse events that are associated with the use of drug, serious, unexpected, and reasonably related to the investigational product. Related and unexpected fatal or life-threatening adverse events with severity grade 4 or 5 that are associated with the use of drug must be reported to FDA no later than 7 calendar days after the sponsor first learns about the event. FDA must be notified of serious, related, and unexpected adverse events associated with the use of drugs that are not fatal or life-threatening in a written safety report no later than 15 calendar days after the sponsor learns about the event. The sponsor should report pertinent follow-up information for previously submitted reports to the FDA as soon as it is available. Thank you for watching this video. If you like this video, give a big thumbs up. For any queries, please mail us at clinicalgyan@gmail.com. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more information related to clinical trials and clinical research. Thank you.